Hi, I'm Greg, and thanks for letting me be in your group life session tonight. One of the things we've really learned about group life is that when you gather together, there are three streams that are all flowing and converging together to do some great stuff. And I want to just talk about that for a second. The first one is your own life. Each of you, what's been going on, the highs and lows, all that stuff. You're bringing that with you, and that's really important. We want you to share that with each other. The next piece is I'll just call it Sunday, and that is what is the conversation we're having as a community together, so that we're all thinking about it, kind of be pushed on it. We really try to shape what we choose to do on Sundays out of what is happening in people's lives right now. I hope you find that connection. So these shouldn't be too far apart, but they're different streams. And this is really headed up with a homework question that you have, and you can find it on the Sunday paper, you can find it online. We really encourage you to spend a little bit of time thinking and writing about that before you come to group life. The third stream that is coming in is your wrestlings with God. And that might be through soap, it could be through your own prayer and meditation, who knows what that is, but those things that where you are learning and growing and kind of through your own personal spiritual disciplines, and that needs to come together. And what happens when these three things come together in your group life session is what we kind of jokingly talk about the group life magic, because we hear the stories about it all the time, and it's just amazing. I know sometimes it's bigger than others, but these three things coming together make some really important, significant relationships happen. So that's good. I want to spend a little bit of time talking to you about the Bible side of this. It's the story that we talk about on Sunday morning. This is January 18th, but it's also in your SOAP readings from Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of this week. It's the story of the woman at the well in John chapter 4. And one of the things you need to know, first of all, this story is, at least when it was written, it was about 1900 or so years ago. So you can't expect it to be like literature or storytelling or history from our time. We can't have those same expectations. I also don't expect you to be an expert on first century literature. Okay, you don't have to do that either. But it just means that we're going to have to dig a little harder. We're going to try a few more things to start figuring out, finding, releasing all the power of the story. And I'm not going to tell you the whole story right now. I hope you're here on Sunday morning. I hope you can watch it online. You can read you'll be reading the story yourselves. But Jesus runs into the Samaritan woman. He meets her at the well in the middle of the day, and they have this conversation. And one of our problems is that we tend to see all these biblical characters, and with the biblical language, and John is really big on metaphor and always getting all theology in here. So we just sort of read it like Sunday school class from when we were in second grade or something, and it's boring, it's got Bibleese, and we just miss it. And they aren't real people. They were real people. And we need to let them out of here. We got to let them express themselves. So one of the two ways that I think helps us release the characters from this story so that they can speak to us, and we can begin to identify and get some of God's good stuff out of here, is to, like we did last week, and we'll practice it again, of trying on attitudes. All right, they didn't just say this with Bible-y Sunday school talk. They said it like real people did. And so when this woman hears Jesus say, if you knew who it was asking you, you would ask him for a drink. And she says, sir, you have no bucket. How are you going to get any water? Do you think she really just said that as a everyday statement? Okay, let's remember, this is the woman from town who, I don't know if she's a local prostitute, but probably something kind of like that, okay? She's dealt with men. She's heard all the lines. She's dealt with power all her life. She doesn't put up with a lot of crap. So when Jesus says something like to her, what about the possibility that she just kind of looks at him with her head kind of tilted to the side and says, buddy, you don't need to have a bucket. What are you talking about? And then the same thing when Jesus asks him, bring your husband. Tell him to come with you. And she says, I don't have a husband. And Jesus says, you're right. You've had 5 husbands, and the man you're living with now isn't your husband. And she says, I can see that you are a prophet. Seriously? She knows that her life is no secret. Everybody around, he's just been walking with all the other people from around the area to her village. She knows he's heard the stories. My sense is, or at least I'd like to try on this attitude where she's saying, buddy, you're no prophet. Come on, everybody knows that. What are you trying to impress me with? But all that said, something does click in her. Now, one of the things that I would like you to be looking at is, well, what is the change that happens in her? Because somewhere, by the time she gets to the end of this encounter with God through Jesus, something has changed. And it affects her. It shows the implication of God bouncing in and off, or however, into her life, and it affects her community. There's some rope stuff going on there, isn't there? And so what is the change? Maybe, draw a before-after diagram and talk about it. And then how did she get from one to the other? I think that could be some really important and some really valuable stuff for you to do. In fact, I would advise you to read the story together, starting at verse 5 and going through verse 30, and have three people, have a narrator, have Jesus, and have the woman. And everybody, try out different attitudes, have fun with it, try stuff. This is going to require speculation. The greatest theologian, biblical theologian in the world, does not know exactly how these people said these lines. They do not know exactly what it's supposed to say and what it's all supposed to mean and what exactly happened in it, okay? So your guess is as good as anyone else's. The only thing I say is, don't try to pretend that your speculation is right. Just learn from it. So, read the story together, take 5 minutes, everybody answer those questions themselves. What do I think actually happened to her? What was the change? And how did that change happen? What caused it? Or, what was going on there? And then share your ideas. Don't try to decide who was right and who was wrong, but just learn from what everybody's insights and what each person brings to the table. I think that could be some pretty good stuff, and you could have a lot of fun with that. But the big thing that I am going to steer you towards as you're thinking about this is the question of self-honesty. We're talking about this is your life, and this week is about this is your now. Who are you really? And why did Jesus want her to know who she really was? And what did Jesus do with that knowledge, and how did it change her? And then maybe think about that question for yourself. What does Jesus really want you to know about yourself? And why does he want you to know it? And what would that change in you if you did? Thanks so much. Have a great time as Group Life today.